No, probably will have trouble blinking from Chwan. Ravage on 3, Shackle on 2. Waiwei, a beautiful little Shackle from him, and that sets up a quick double kill. Guess the question, Demon starts it off with the Firefly, blinks in, grabs K Phoenix, surprise!
Does get chucked up before he BKBs. FC overextending. Here comes the AoE, but he's already gone down N9 in a...
Will this be enough to bring Long GD down? He's so low. Maybe should have saved the Flame Breath. Don't know if that last auto attack would have hit. And Tiny kills him with the splash on kill.
And we'll get out. They haven't got sentries or dust. The clamp comes in. Maybe an Angus.
Oh!
Well played.
Oh, this is a beautiful thing to see. It's a base trade, and EG might be caught unawares. It's a time for a TP scroll check, and nobody has a TP on EG.
They haven't done enough damage to backdoor protection. They need
Unbelievable!
more geniuses.
Thousands of years of waiting, and yet no time to waste.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our final day of online playoff action for the G1 League. I'm LD. The man to my left is GoDz, and GoDz, it's East versus West. It's Shao8 versus Demon. I made a pretty cute little Facebook post to that effect. This is everything, all your marbles on the table, $53,000 of prize pool, and a berth to the LAN finals awaits the winner of our final best out of 3. Oh, boy.
This is it, LD. This is it. We're finally reaching the end of the road, well, at least the end of the online path, as this is the final spot at that G1 League Finals in Fuzhou, China, in about, 10 days' time now? I believe it's on the, I know it's on the November 17th and 18th. Orange, Invictus Gaming, DK, they're awaiting one more team, and we're going to find out who it's going to be at the end of today.
Yeah, let's actually take a look at those brackets just a little bit so we can see who else is already qualified and how they got there. For DK, it was a one-match trip for them. They beat LGD 2-1 in what was, I think, our most epic game so far of this entire event. And honestly, for me, outside of the International too, one of the most epic Dota 2 games ever played was that DK versus LGD game number 1. If you haven't watched that yet, after today's broadcast, I highly recommend, if you only watch one Dota 2 VOD for the next couple of months, this is the game to watch. DK versus LGD, game number 1. So they qualify coming off of that. On the other side of the bracket, we had IG facing off against Orange, and Orange put up a hell of a fight versus IG. Both games, at times, they had an advantage, but GoDz, in the end, it was just too much IG. They skate into the semifinals, into the LAN finals on the back of a 2-0 victory.
Yeah, it's been a story of the Chinese teams for the most part so far. At least those two big names, IG and DK. DK taking out LGD in that close series, like you mentioned. IG, they're looking a bit untouchable. Even when they fell behind, they just stayed so composed, so calm, and just were so patient in finding the time, the space to actually make that comeback.
As far as the rest of our playoffs matches go, we had Tongfu versus EG, and this, well, we'll save that one. We'll save that one, actually. On the other side of the bracket, we had MUFC versus Flash. This bottom side of the bracket was all the Southeast Asian teams, MUFC, Flash, and Orange, all down there together. Bit of a bloodbath and some sort of genocide, or what is it? Fratricide, I believe, is killing your brothers, basically. All the Southeast Asian teams killing each other off. First, there's MUFC disposing with ease of Flash Esports. I think the most one-sided series we've had in the playoffs, and even more one-sided than most of the group stage matches. MUFC just totally caught Flash with their pants down. And then Orange, a similar level of dismantling for MUFC, so it seems there's a clear pecking order when it comes to Southeast Asia.
Yeah, at least at this point in the G1 League, it's been pretty clear how the teams rank, how they order themselves, and Orange Esports have been the one team who've been able to take games from the Chinese, first from DK in the group stages, and then up against IG, they look pretty tough, pretty mighty. They managed Orange also taking games from Tongfu, so they look like a team who could actually go to that LAN finals and put up a fight, really represent the Southeast Asian teams. And in some ways, it was a bit of a blessing that, sure, they knocked each other out, but I think MUFC, Flash Esports would have struggled even more against those Chinese teams.
Yeah, like you said, they're just less experienced teams overall. Sure, MUFC has some veterans, but across the board, Orange is chock full of them. Ice, as well as Mushi, Yamate, Extinct, and even Ice. All of these guys have tons of LAN experience. They all competed at the International too, and Well, that's what you need when you go up against these Chinese teams is experience. And GoDz, speaking of experience, that brings us to today's match. EG versus Tongfu. That was how EG's playoff run started. It's been a very interesting run for them, not even just in the playoffs, but in the qualifier. Heck, they had some crazy games. It all began for them in the G1 League with what we just saw in the trailer, with that absolutely wacky best out of 3 versus FTFC. Gotta say, not the level of play you need to have if you want to take down a team like LGD, but they've looked sharper as of late. They have these pocket strategies. They have kind of these cheesy things at times, but they've also, let's be honest, just exhibited a much higher level of play in the playoffs, taking down Tongfu 2-0, really smart laning, really smart drafting, and that's how they find themselves here, matching up against an LGD team who looks to be sort of firmly in that third spot in the Chinese pecking order, just below IG, just below DK, but still a fearsome force, much stronger, much more stable than Tongfu.
Yeah, LGD sort of had their moment to shine at TI2 as one of the most feared teams because of how well they executed in that current metagame. But as of late, it's been DK and IG much faster to adapt. And LGD, they are clearly in that third position in the Chinese pecking order, but they have looked a bit shaky. They've been sort of figuring out their roles. We've had G-1 and DD switching around from support into that offlane role. Be interesting to see who's actually going to be playing that offlane solo this time around. It seems G-1's back to playing it after some turbulence in their roles, but it's EG who have really stepped up their game in the playoffs, and that's going to be an interesting matchup because they're definitely the underdogs going into a match against LGD.
You know, it's interesting you bring up the role experimentation because we've seen EG having stand-ins and thus having to switch the roles around, but it looks like today BDiz's internet has finally recovered, so you can stop with the save BDiz 2012, guys. Don't worry, his internet is back on track. He is going to be playing for EG, which is both a blessing and a curse. A blessing because, of course, you'd love to have your full 5, but unfortunately that means they won't get the 30 to 50 ping services of a Singaporean stand-in such as HYHY. Will this be a blessing? Will it be a curse? We're going to find out pretty soon, but GoDz, I think it's time to break down this match a little bit. Let's talk about this matchup. Let's talk... Let's talk about these two teams. Nobody saw that. Let's talk about LGD first. So we're going to start with LGD. For key points, we have Xiaowei, Kodal or bust, don't pick Alchemist, and the best defense.
Well, it's Kodal has just been a completely key hero for LGD throughout. Earlier on, it was Xiaowei playing it when he used it as a support. Then they switched into that side lane. DD, I think, actually played the Keeper of the Light in their most recent game, but it's still such an important hero for them, regardless of who's playing it. Against a team like EG, who love to go for these sort of group up push kind of strategies, these cheesy type death ball armies, and I think Keeper of the Light's the perfect counter to it. We saw it yesterday. It really prevented MUFC from doing anything against Orange. They wanted to go for early push, but Orange, who had the support Keeper of the Light, just getting those early levels was crucial. And I think for LGD it is as well. I'm almost expecting a Keeper of the Light ban in one of these 2 games, or potentially 3 games.
Yeah, and likewise for LGD, you would expect to see a Batrider ban, as Demon has been playing a fantastic one so far. We put Don't Pick Alchemist in here, and this sort of, I feel, falls a bit into line with what we talked about as a key point for LGD previously, which was the Invoker trap. It's not necessarily a hero that can't fit into this patch, but it's a hero that LGD don't seem to understand how to use properly, at least in their official matches. Supposedly, they've been using him to great success in scrimmages versus LGD International. At least that's what I've been told by some of the players there. But when we've seen them play Alchemist, a safe lane free farm Sylar goes for an early phase boots. Vanguard doesn't max Goblin's Greed, plays as a bit of a roamer, which really isn't Alchemist's strength in this patch. That we saw the other time they ran him, it was an off lane here. It was Xiaowei playing it. And not that it can't work in the off lane, but it certainly didn't fit with the rest of LGD's draft. And I think heroes like Alchemist, heroes like Invoker, who are either weak in this particular version or who LGD just don't quite know how to use as well as other teams, these are sort of the trap heroes that you really want to be careful about.
Yeah, I think there's just some, and Invoker, another one, especially we saw them against IG going into that Invoker. Not a hero that really shines as much in the current metagame. Maybe it does slightly better against EG because of the Tornado EMP ability to just stall those pushes. It's less likely EG go for that sort of heavy, aggressive style of play with heroes like Sven, Bounty Hunter, Slada, and whatnot, but it's still a bit of a trap. LGD need to get the early game aggressive heroes that can do well in the laning stage here.
I agree, and as far as that goes, the final point we'd like to make about this LGD squad, sometimes they tend to be one of the more predictable and passive teams in the game. And sometimes when you want to be a defensive team, when you want to be a team that holds on your towers, plays for the late game, where stable, good decision-making can carry you through, as well as having the superior hero composition, sometimes the best defense is a good offense, especially against a team like EG. You know the timings are coming, whether it's pushing, whether it's ganking. They're going to be aggressive. It's just a question of when, so don't let them get rolling. Now we turn our attention towards EG. GoDz, this one now sort of rendered, I wouldn't say irrelevant, but we already talked about it quite a bit. The HY factor, they're not going to have a stand-in, so then it becomes this question of paying what kind of... This limits your hero pool a little bit. We're not going to see that Demon Pudge, I imagine, or things along those lines.
It limits the hero pool and just limits the ability to win matchups that you normally should. Some 1v1 matchups, which should on paper be even, suddenly maybe go in LGD's favor, and you can lose a game based on just one lane not doing as well as it should. So it makes it a lot harder for EG to ban and pick, and I think it goes to some of the next key points. They need to use these cheesy strategies. They've got 2 or 3 pocket strategies which they execute to perfection. The 2 we've seen so far, the Batrider Nature's Prophet and the Lifestealer bombs, and also this cheesy group up and push where they get Chaos Knight, Leshrac, Chen, Omni Knight, and just go push. It's the Knight strategy, basically. Sometimes they mix up a hero, sometimes they won't get the Dragon Knight, they'll pick a Lone Druid instead, but it's just this mid-game push, which is just so hard to stop.
And who knows, maybe EG has other ones. If you have pocket strategies, this is pretty much the best time to be pulling them out of the hat. This is the biggest tournament they're going to be competing in as far as prize pool, prestige, and just opportunities to play against the best teams go for quite some time. Sure, there will be bigger tournaments in the future. It's not the international, but let's be honest, GoDz. This is the biggest tournament EG is going to have, I would say, even through the end of this year. Forget about the Western tournaments. There will be some good competition, but this tournament across the board, the deepest competition, the biggest prize pool on the line for any event outside of the international too. And with that all being said, extra cheese, please, was our final key point. So, GoDz, it's time. It's time to jump into game number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, game number 1 between EG versus LGD, your G1 League play-in match into the LAN finals in Fuzhou, China, where there will be $53,000 in prize pool on the line. It's coming up in just a few moments' time.